so here we are logged into our course. And I am going to go ahead and show you the way that I recommend when of accessing the materials. So as soon as you log in, I would recommend go to Files, and then you can get the folder of the week. So this week's folder is the folder that's called Exercise 2. Because we did exercise 1 last week. Now this week you're going to be assigned exercise 2. So you can hover over, whoops, I clicked on it, and then you can see what's inside of it. But if you accidentally click on it like I did, you can click back on in the left column, the folder for our entire class, for the whole class, for everything that all the class materials. Then go back over to exercise 2, hover over it, don't click on it, and then just click on the ... and then click download. And then it should download the exercise 2 folder. And then I'm going to look for it in my downloads. And let's see. I think it's this one today. Wait, this is the wrong one. It would be this one that I just downloaded at 6:46. So let me throw this other one away that I downloaded earlier today. So this one here, it comes in as a zip file. Then you just double click on it. It will expand the folder out. So it's exercise 2. That's the one you want. And then I'm going to drag that to my folder for the class. I'm going to go find in Finder. I'm going to make a new Finder window and go to where I'm storing everything for this class. Oops, not here. Let's see. Going to OCC or 181, Tuesday, Thursday. Yeah, that's where I want it. So I'm going to drag this here. I'll move it in there. And then, so what do we have here in exercise 2? We have some examples, examples of what our assignment's going to look like. We're doing an assignment called Design Genealogy. I like to start with this presentation that shows a few of the pioneers in digital art that this assignment is kind of inspired by. There's an assignment here that I did when I was in college, that's a similar assignment that was called Evolution, but the instructions for this assignment are down here at the bottom of the list. Exercise 2 instructions. I'm going to double click on that and open that up, and I'm also going to open up the Evolution artist presentation that I want to share with you today. So this is just a very brief little highlight history on 2 of the digital art pioneers. So one is William Latham, who created the evolution of form in 1990. Latham was among the first to create genetically, in quotes, seemingly genetically alive forms that resemble living organisms, though their mutations only occur inside the computer. So this was groundbreaking way back when, in the 90s, when computers, this digital medium based in zeros and ones, were thought of as just kind of giant calculators crunching numbers. Who would have thought that you could use the digital medium to generate art, to generate imagery that resembles what we see in nature? So what is some of these images remind you of? What about this top one here? Can anyone shout out like ideas of what you see in these images, what they make you think of? What about this top one here?
A wormhole.
A wormhole? Whoops. Yeah, definitely a hole of some sort, a tunnel maybe. Any other ideas? Maybe a coiled up snake?
I am, like from Jungle Book.
Yeah, definitely jungle-like imagery. One person said, which I thought was pretty imaginative, a dragon's eye. Someone else might see like something resembling an acid trip, but I wouldn't know anything about that. I could only imagine. And then there's this one that kind of looks plasticky and Play-Doh-y down here. Maybe looks like something in Legoland. It looks less like something I might imagine in nature. And then what about this one down here? How could you describe what this content looks like?
Chameleon's tail.
Definitely a lot of tails in there. Yeah, like a lizard's tail, chameleon's tail. What about
Awesome. Seahorse.
seahorses? Yes.
Caterpillars.
Caterpillars.
Awesome.
Yes, very imaginative thinking there, and very good.
Fossil.
Fossil, yeah, for sure. What about the overall layout? What does that resemble?
Maybe like a family tree.
Family tree, yeah, for sure, definitely. So, and this is going to be what our exercise might look something like, because we're doing a genealogy chart, a vector graphics genealogy chart. And so this piece was, fine art that would be in a museum or a gallery. This type of work, this type of strategy of creating these generations of forms that have characteristics that that carry across from generation to generation. This is a strategy that we're going to be learning today, and it's a great strategy of generating imagery, not only for creating fine art like this, but for building a brand for a company. Because when you develop a brand for a company, you would be developing the logo, and you would be developing all kinds of imagery that work in harmony with that logo, and you'd be creating a whole package, a whole identity package for that company, from the business card layout, the letterhead, their advertisements, their mailers, and all across different media, from maybe television advertisements to their website design. And all of that needs to have this cohesive identity, so that there is brand recognition. But it also needs to have a certain level of variation. Why does it have to have variation? Why can't everything look the same? Any ideas?
Change?
Yeah, it has to have a little bit of variation. Like just looking at this chart here, if every single one of these little creatures looked exactly the same, would that be interesting as looking at this? Wouldn't be very interesting, right? It would kind of be boring, right? Now I got stuck over here in this corner. So having that variation makes things interesting, makes it exciting. Then for building a brand, you want to create design elements that are exciting and really draw the viewer in and engage and captivate those potential clients and customers out there, to be a crowd draw and build a client base. And that's how you do it, by creating imagery that's captivating and exciting. But then at the same time, you have to have that vein of commonality, that consistency from one item to the next, from the, from the flyer to the mailer to the business card to the website. Everything has to have a cohesive, consistent look, much like a family tree or a genealogy chart. So we're going to be learning the strategies to create this week a design genealogy chart. And I'd like you to think about using that strategy when you create something for the, a project for the real world, for a client, to build a brand. And you may come up with really great logo ideas with this, or just design ideas that you can use in other projects. Just so you guys mentioned a lot of different characteristics that carry across from one generation to another, like the tail. And what else did you guys say? What other characteristics did you guys see that carry across from one generation to the next? Branches, I think someone said maybe. Colors, yeah, there's a consistent color scheme here that carry across that every creature has. So this is what we're going to be doing this week. Something like that, inspired by the work of William Latham. Then we're gonna take a look at Carl Sims and what he did, which was kind of similar in generating imagery that resembles what we see in nature, inspired by Darwin's theory of natural selection. Sims has created a system, he called it Galapagos in 1995, whereby, again in quotes, genetic organisms seem to develop within their own environment inside the computer. And this piece was an interactive piece where Sims had generated a lot of different characteristics that viewers could choose from, and then it would automate and generate. So it would generate these forms automatically. So the viewer would choose from a display of simple pictures, and then random changes in color, texture, shape, and other parameters would occur, resulting in another, in quotes, generation of creatures. What do these creatures remind you of? These top three here.
Spider.
Spiders, really colorful spiders. Jellyfish, yeah, definitely. I feel a sense of underwater with this. They look like, to me, they look like spacey crustaceans or something. Crustaceans from outer space. Definitely I get the underwater sense, but more like in a sci-fi kind of feel. Then this is a book I scanned. Sorry, I wasn't able to find an image on Google that was as good as the scan that I did from the book, but unfortunately you see the binding. That's not part of the art. What does this resemble to you? What does this make you think of?
A scene from an animated movie, Osmosis Jones, when they go into the body and it's the city. That's what popped into my head.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, totally. I could see that. Definitely it has a very in the body look to it, like cellular. And I could imagine these being like roads in a city inside someone's body. That's very imaginative. Some people say this looks like spaghetti. Definitely cellular, like looking at something under a microscope. So these are a few of the pioneers. So let's take a look at what we're going to be doing. We're going to be using Illustrator, and I'm going to review some of the some tools that we've been using, and I'm also going to go further and show you some new tools. Let me show you some examples of what people have done who've completed the assignment. So let's see where my examples are. Let's see. So you have two choices when you do this assignment. Let me show you in the instructions. Let's hope I put it in there at the bottom. At the bottom of the instructions here, you have two choices if you work in landscape or if you work in portrait. So if you work in landscape, you must create at least 2 sets of parents and at least 3 generations total. If you're working in portraits on a portrait-sized artboard, create at least 1 set of parents with at least 4 generations total. So what does that mean? This is a great example right here of one who worked in the portrait-sized landscape, and she has 1 set of parents. It's 1 couple at the top, mom and a dad, or it could be, I don't know which one's the mom, which one's the dad, but that doesn't really matter. So that's the 1 set of parents. That counts as 1 generation. So then you count, those came together and had babies. So 1 generation, 2 generations, 3 generations, 4 generations. So that follows the directions for the minimum requirement for the portrait. So all you're doing is you're going to be starting with your 2 parents, and you're going to duplicate them out in different ways. You can duplicate them as many times as you like and arrange them in different ways. And I'm going to be going over some methods of what we call reproduction. So let's take a look at some of these children that were generated from these parents. I'm going to use my zoom tool and zoom in. Look at this. The star came together with the circle, and look, doesn't that look like the most beautiful mold you've ever seen? Looks like pink mold. And it's within a cute little star shape. Some of these are more experimental, which is cool. Some of these might turn out really pretty clean and well balanced. That could be used as a logo. And some of them could end up as art in a gallery. This one came out nice. Kind of 3-dimensional look to it. Okay, so that's one. Let me show another one here. Let's see. Look at this one. This one went in a more representational way. I'm going to reset my workspace. Window, workspace, reset. Clean it up a little bit. Someone put something in chat. Let me just check. No worries. Thanks for signing in to chat. Okay, so yeah, so someone, the person who did this one had some creative ideas and put their the skills that they had to use to create more detailed representational parent shapes with a theme, which is very clever. You don't have to do this. You could just stick to simple shapes if you want, but I think this is very, very clever. This is just an exercise too, so you don't have to you don't really have to put too much into it or stress too much about being evaluated. Remember, it's an exercise, so it's just intended for you to get your feet wet, practice, continue to learn. But if you want to go for it and make something awesome that you can add to your portfolio, then hey, go for it. So this was very interesting how the children were created, and then those children came together and created these new forms. And I love the background, all the thought that was put into the layout of this chart and the design of the background to look like underwater theme, bubbles. So this one's really well done. Okay, now this one, oh, and let's take a look at this one and how it followed the criteria of the assignment. So is this portrait or landscape?
Landscape.
Landscape. So landscape, the requirement is at least 2 sets of parents, which they've got on the top here, 2 couples, and then at least 3 generations total. So you count the parents 1, and then the children of the parents 2, and then the children of the children 3. So that follows that criteria. It's very well done. The chart layout is just gorgeous. There's spacing all around the edges. You want to try to have even spacing all around the edges. They could have maybe moved this, nudged everything over just a little bit, but overall it's excellent. Okay, so this one also follows that criteria with 2 sets of parents and 3 generations. There's no requirement on how many kids everyone has, and not everyone in the chart has to have children. So this one, can anyone guess what tool was used to create this look on these very detailed illustrative shapes?
Warp.
Warp, yeah, lots of warping going on. These tools that are hiding under the width tool, they generate a lot of points.
Sorry, Professor, I couldn't add those warps inside the toolbar.
Oh, okay. If you don't see your warp tool and all these tools that are under the width tool, it may be because you're on the basic toolbar. So make sure that you go under Window and you go to Toolbars at the top here, and you make sure you switch to Advanced, because I'm going to be demonstrating in Advanced and to give you all the tool options.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So if I go to the direct selection tool, you'll see there are a ton of anchor points here, which you have to be aware of because that can really bog down your system and cause crashes. But sometimes that's just the number of anchor points you need to create a certain look. Like in this case, she's created this beautiful illustrative look. It looks like pen and ink. So these forms are really interesting to look at and came together in an interesting way. I like the detail. I like the illustrative quality. My only issue with this is the layout, because what's in the middle of this layout? What's this? This is empty space, and we're going to learn later on as we progress in the course the reason why it's never a good idea to leave empty space right in the middle of any sort of, in any composition. Anyone know why it's not a good idea?
Maybe because that's where your eyes go to first?
Your eyes definitely going to want to rest there in the middle, and then what's going to happen is you're going to be staring at nothing most of the time rather than looking at anything in the composition. So it's going to be difficult to pull your eye. It's going to be harder for the viewer's eye to get out of the middle and look at everything in the composition. It's more of a struggle to get out of the center space. It's the goal that the guidelines or the strategies that I'm going to be teaching you about creating more interesting compositions. The key is that you want to create elements in the middle that create movement, that draw the viewer's eye to the most interesting parts of the composition, so that the viewer's eye is going to be cycling easily around every part of the composition and not get stuck in the middle, and especially not end up looking at a vacuum of nothing in the middle, because then the majority of what they're actually going to be looking at is nothing, and that's going to be sending a lot of signals to the brain saying this is boring, Although I can force myself to really look over here and say, oh, that's great, beautiful art over here. But the overall layout will be a lot more effective if you keep the space filled with something. So just keep that in mind. Have space, have more empty space around the edges rather than in the middle. So just some strategy guidelines to think about when developing your chart. And notice we've been looking at charts that have been using line. We're going to get to start using line. I'm going to hopefully get to demonstrate that tonight. But you don't have to use line. Like this one was successfully done by arranging the objects neatly in straight lines, so that you could still follow this as a chart without the line. So it kind of looks interesting, like a definitely an evolution going on. We're starting with the simple shapes and leading to, it looks like a dinosaur hatching in the end. Beautiful colors there. Let's look at another one. This one I really like too, how it starts with the simple representational shapes and objects, circle and flower, and then they combine in different ways. And oh look, now it's turned into Jackson Pollock paint splatters. It looks like by the nth generation. And I like the choices made here to create the bold black slanted lines. Nice looking chart. This one, I like the styling on the lines. They make me think of like a train track. And a lot of these are using a method that I'm going to be teaching you for recombining your objects to make the babies, the reproduction method, using a very important panel that we're going to learn for this week called Pathfinder. So Pathfinder lets you combine shapes into new shapes with one click, like you saw me do with Shape Builder to create the cloud with a lot of little click drags. You can combine multiple shapes into one new shape with just one click using the Pathfinder. You can also use Pathfinder to make interesting cutouts in the overlapping areas and all kinds of different designs with cutouts like you see in these forms that kind of look like stencil art. So we're going to be looking at that. And this is the one that usually blows everyone away. Let's take a look at this one here. So this is when Puma and Nike got together and they made babies. And just check out the imaginative work here. Imagination that went into recombining the Puma and the Nike into all these new interesting art forms. Swirling them together in different ways. It's probably warp or something, or twirl tool that did that. Got some interesting overlays with opacity changes going on here. I love the butterfly that came together. Where was the butterfly? The butterfly was earlier, and then now the butterfly is replicating into even more exciting forms down here. This one looks like a blend. I'm going to be talking to you about creating a blend, using blending as one of our methods of reproduction. I love this swirling going on and layering of shapes, creating these beautiful tapestries. This entire project here could represent a whole portfolio of work. He looks like he's ready to do the designs for the surf shops and the skateboard designs and the surfboard designs. Just gorgeous work here. Looks very three-dimensional here. Okay, and then this one reminds me. I don't know if anyone remembers Lisa Frank here. Bright colored art designs. I like the look of this too. The black bold, and I love how it comes together with the color, like the black looks like ink drawing and then coming together in some interesting little cutout formations. Some exciting design work coming out of this process. And then finally this one here. This one's got 3 sets of parents going on here. And lots of use of Pathfinder to create the cutout shapes here. Does anyone recognize this one here? What does this one look like?
AOL.
AOL, yeah. Who'd have thought? These must be AOL's parents up there.